live, pal.
We're here.
I'm Double G, and you can see Denise, one of our Dream Team members. Unfortunately, our other Dream Team member, Andrew Zarian, he had a last-minute family issue thing that he's got to deal with, so he's unable to join us, which just means that I get more time to hang out with Denise, which is always a great thing. So, Denise, you remember the first time I ever interviewed you. Was it last year, like sometime?
It was definitely before September of last year because I wasn't even working with the company yet. And I don't remember how exactly I think I followed you on Twitter. You followed me back. And then we kind of started like DMing each other. And then you asked me to be on your podcast. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. And then we did it. And then I think like 2 weeks later, I was brought onto the team. So I guess I have you to thank for like putting some good words out there for me and all of that. So this is technically our second podcast together,
yes.
Just but the first time on the actual, like, with F4W and all of that.
I don't think I have anything to do with that, but when I did talk to you, I remember it was either Dave or Brian. I was like, oh, like, do you know who this person is? And they're like, yeah, we already know who she is. And then like it was like maybe like a week later, they were like, so what'd you think? What do you think about her? How's her energy? And so I gave you some very good feedback, but I think they had already been thinking about you, and it was just a coincidence with the timing.
Oh my God, that's so wild because I literally had no idea. And then I kind of hardly knew anybody. So I was like, well, I'm not going to be poking Garrett. Give me the information. What's being said about me. I wasn't going to be like, doing that to you. But I was curious because it kind of all just kind of happened like around the exact same time. And I didn't know if anything correlated with anything, but it's kind of cool though. I guess we kind of have like, a little story here.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is luck and timing, and a lot of things happen that way, right? Like, it's just like, oh, like these things, for whatever reason, were happening right around the same time. But, we had this giant weekend in pro wrestling, and I know you got through most of it. I didn't get through quite as much, but I got through a lot. And then we have this giant weekend upcoming in pro wrestling. So we're just going to mostly talk about that stuff. So we'll review what went on, and then we'll kind of preview what's going on. And then, of course, we'll end doing our performer of the week. But I know you covered Triple Mania, correct?
I did actually. And it was crazy because I think a lot of people were kind of like, a lot of people didn't know a lot of the backstories that were going on. And so I kind of found, that way to kind of share a little bit of like, what I knew and shared that like on Twitter and social media. And I swear, I kid you not, Garrett, I got like 300 new followers based off of my coverage from Triple Mania. So it was insane. And then I did the post show, but I did the post show on Fightful, and it got like thousands of views. And I was so nervous because I had no idea. I thought this was going to be a show that either nobody was going to tune into, or a lot of people were going to tune into. I didn't know what the audience was going to be like, what the interest was going to be like. And obviously it helped tremendously that there was a lot of news coming out of that show, especially for, more of the like American audiences. Sure. So that obviously helped a lot, but it was kind of like a nice thing where it just kind of goes back to the fact that I think that there is still a lot of interest in, in lucha, especially here with American audiences. I just don't think that very many promotions have necessarily tapped into really gaining that, that audience.
And it doesn't help that Kenny Omega is one of the champions. It doesn't hurt. And it also doesn't hurt when the Nature Boy Ric Flair shows up. And then, after the show, you hear that Charlotte was also there and missed a WWE show that she had probably requested some time ago. So, yeah, there was intrigue there. And Andrade, the thing I always say about Andrade is people, they kind of wonder where he stands in AEW right now. I said, just give him time, because everywhere that he's gone, with the exception of WWE main roster, and I don't put that blame on him, he's got over giant with crowd. So, you go back, obviously, in Mexico, giant star. In Japan, he was a star. In NXT, he was great. I think he'll be just as good in AEW. He'll have to sort of find his way because they have a lot of talent. But, Andrade is one of my favorite guys going today, who I just love the idea that you have this guy with so much confidence in himself And look, he's not the young puppy that he once was, so he's going to be utilizing more of his charisma and, just the way that he goes about himself. And if Ric Flair comes in and joins him as well, I think that could only help. But yeah, it was such an interesting show. How did you watch it? How did people watch it? I'm sure there's some, there's certain ways. I think, certain people were maybe streaming it or so, but I know that they didn't have a U.S. distributor for the broadcast, right?
Honestly, so first and foremost, shout out to Lucha Blog, because Lucha Blog literally did everything. If it wasn't for Lucha Blog, I wouldn't have seen the show. And so everybody outside of Mexico would not have seen that show because, with their whole situation and that whole legal battle. And I don't know the minuscule details on that, but I just know because of that, obviously we weren't able to get this coverage outside of Mexico. And I was kind of like, this sucks because, there's this great card, but it's 2021. That someone somewhere is going to find a way to actually get it, in other places. And I knew going into this that I was going to have to find one of those streams. I call it one of those streams. I don't know what we're allowed to legally say about that. But anyways, so, I was very thankful to Lucha Blog, who actually, he was the reason that we got to watch. So kudos to him. But Garrett, I do want to add to this because, we were just talking about Andrade and we were talking about that match. And I want to add the fact that here's the interesting thing. So you mentioned the fact that he is somebody that has gotten over no matter where he's been. And I agree with you. Obviously, in terms of WWE, he didn't necessarily get over. We know that WWE has been looking for that Latin star, yet they had an option in Andrade and didn't pull the plug there. Okay, we get that. In AEW, I haven't been crazy about his presentation. Okay, fine. But here's an interesting thing. So I did the Stars Heels red carpet, and obviously you have a bunch of actors there who aren't necessarily wrestling fans. They're actors that got hired to do a job. I interviewed one of the actors about the project, was not a wrestling fan whatsoever. So I asked him, after doing this project, are you more open to, watching pro wrestling? And he actually told me that he went out of his way to attend the AEW show in Miami, which I believe was Road Rager. And then I asked him, how'd you enjoy the show? He liked it, right? But here's the interesting part. I asked him, out of everybody that you saw, who did you become a fan of? And he was like, oh my God, I forgot his name. He's all, but it was a guy that came out with the mask. And, he had just came from WWE. And I was like, Andrade El Idolo. And he was like, yeah, dude, that guy was awesome. And when you think about all the talent that he saw there that night, Andrade was the one that sticked out to him. And I thought that was kind of something interesting, especially coming from a perspective of somebody who isn't a pro wrestling fan. And if anything from that match at Triple Mania, it just basically told me that what we saw here with this Kenny match was we saw shades of La Sombra again, because, there was people saying that he necessarily wasn't the same anymore after WWE. But I think we definitely saw shades of that in that match.
By the way that you pronounce these words is very beautiful. And I'm half Mexican as well, but as you can tell, Denise is a much better Mexican than I am because her pronunciation is amazing, and I don't even try.
The battle of the Mexicans right now. Who's the better Mexican?
I'm only half, so that's my excuse.
Okay.
So it sounds like it was a great show, and I think there was a lot of fun with people trying to find it. Oh, this is kind of a mystery show. People don't want us to watch. Let's watch. Let's find the way. The other show that was going on at the same time was the New Japan Resurgence show. And on our last show, I asked you if you were going to cover that, and you said no, that you're going to cover Triple Mania. That was in LA, and it was at the Coliseum. I guess that they have this outdoor arena right in front of the actual LA Coliseum. It looked pretty cool. It was dark, the way that they shot it. So I had ordered it through Fight because I wanted to listen to the U.S. announcing team. I'm a giant fan of Kevin Kelly. So got it through Fight. Didn't watch it live because I had some other stuff going on. And then I finally turned it on, and the stream was really bad. And I had talked to some other folks. I go, oh, wow, does it get any better? They're like, about halfway. It gets a little bit better. And so I'm watching the first match, and I'm just like, I can't. I feel like a little bit of a snob because, I used to watch videotapes that you could barely see when I was younger, when I was a younger wrestling fan growing up. like my WrestleMania 3 tape, like there was a whisper of audio. It was so poorly recorded, and I watched that thing like 100 times. But it's like, you know, you're trying to watch it on your nice TV, and, you know, it just didn't look good at all. So I then reached out to Fight. I was like, hey, I can't watch this. And they were very nice, very quick to give a refund. So kudos to them. But then New Japan World just put it up yesterday on their website. So they had the Japanese announcing team streaming live, but the U.S., they had the pay-per-view rights with Fight, and then they were going to put up the U.S. show a couple days later, but they put it up early. So I'm only like 3 matches through, but that was another show that was going on at the same time, and Will Ospreay showed up. It looks like they're building stuff with maybe Tanahashi and Jon Moxley. So lots of stuff happened. Unfortunately, I don't have the full report because I haven't finished watching it. But if there's a perfect wrestling style for my wrestling fandom, it would be like a New Japan style. So this New Japan US version is like right up my alley. And I just bought tickets today because they're coming to San Jose in November. So bought some tickets with a bunch of friends. So we're really excited to see that. But yeah, so unfortunately, that's my New Japan Resurgence review. It's still in progress, but I had to tell that story about Fight. So another big show, we had actually, I don't know, SmackDown was sort of a regular SmackDown, except we had a John Cena and Roman Reigns promo, and then we had a Sasha Banks and Bianca main event segment. But Rampage, the very first Rampage happened. It was a 1-hour wrestling show. So now on Fridays for you have to talk about SmackDown and Rampage. So you're watching TV for 3 hours straight, like it's Monday night. Hopefully, both of those shows are better than Raw, though. I think they are together. But what were your first thoughts on Rampage? First show ever.
So first and foremost, like you mentioned, so on Fridays now on here, I talk about both SmackDown and AEW Rampage. But Garrett, this is what bums me out, and get this. And like, it bums me out, from the podcaster perspective, because so even though SmackDown airs first and then Rampage, and I tend to do everything in chronological order, I like organization like that, right? But so I covered last week AEW Rampage because that's what, the way I see it is the chat dictates the way that my show is run. And if the people want to talk about AEW Rampage first, then I'm going to give the people what they want. And that's what we're going to talk about, right? But get this, the second I moved into SmackDown, it was like a dip in viewership because everybody just went in there because they wanted to talk about Rampage. So from the podcaster's perspective, I'm like, dang, like, that's just how it's going to be. But it's not a good sign when everybody is coming in to just hear about that 1-hour show versus the 2-hour show. Right. But with that being said, though, SmackDown was not a bad show whatsoever. But you asked me about Rampage. So
yeah, we'll talk about SmackDown in a second.
Yeah, exactly. So Rampage, dude, for a 1-hour show, it literally felt like 30 minutes. And this was one of the things that I said on my post show was that even though, prior I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to do 2 hours of SmackDown, then 1 hour of AEW Rampage. There goes my Friday nights. They were already gone, but now they really, really go away now. And as I'm watching Rampage, I'm thinking, you know what? If they were to automatically just say out of nowhere, hey, Rampage is going to be 2 hours now, I wouldn't mind it. I was so invested in the show that if they were to add that extra hour, I would be cool with it. And keep in mind that I'm sitting there already 2 hours before Rampage on my couch watching wrestling. Yet because the show was so good, I wouldn't have minded if they added that extra hour. But I mean, like, you had the opening match with Christian Cage and Kenny Omega that everybody was curious about. What the hell is going to happen? Who's going to walk out, as champion? And then you also had, that match, the main event match with Red Velvet and Britt Baker. That within itself kind of was very exciting, Britt Baker's hometown, Britsburg, what she's calling it now. Then you had an unexpected, I was not expecting to feel not emotional, but at least my heartstrings were pulled at with the Fuego del Sol contract. That moment was such a nice moment where I felt good. I don't know, like it left you feeling happy. And so overall, it was a feel-good show.
Okay, I have an opinion on Fuego del Sol. I thought it was a great moment as well. the problem with me and Fuego del Sol is I literally didn't know who he was. I don't watch Dark, and so that's probably part of the problem because I know he's on some of their other shows, Sammy Guevara's vlog as well. So I had to do my research, when they gave him the contract. It was a great moment because it was so heartfelt for him. Like, if you think about, if you take away the storyline, right? So the storyline was that if he beats Miro, he gets this contract, and he didn't win. And the good part of this story is that they didn't say, well, if you don't win, you don't get anything. Like, they didn't say that. So I don't know if they thought that they were going to do this. But so I had to do a little bit of research on him. But I think that the thing that's so cool is if you put yourself in the shoes of an independent pro wrestler where you're just working for your bookings, right? You have to be booked to make money. You have to really put yourself out there. Obviously, the vlogs and, some of the dark programming, the YouTube stuff very much helps him. I'm sure it helps him when he goes out to indies. But it's much different than having somewhat of a guaranteed contract. Now, I don't know exactly what that contract is, but when you work for a company, it's much different than, going from, indie promo to indie promotion to indie promotion and trying to figure out like, okay, like how much do I make here? How much do I ask for here? Like, so for that perspective of me putting myself in his shoes going like, man, like that is a sign of, growth or a sign of maturity in the business or whatever. And it was a great TV moment too. Like AEW capitalized on the TV moment. But for that reason, I felt really good for him because I can't imagine, how hard it must be to go from all these areas and get bookings and to stay over and to do well enough so they bring you back and all. Like there's so many things going on there. And, the wrestling industry is a hard industry. So for him to get that was a really nice thing, when it was all said and done.
Yeah, I agree with you because it's the freelance life. That's what it is. You never know where your next paycheck is going to come from when you're bouncing around all these different places or whatever your route is. So obviously having that contract is nice. You're expecting a certain paycheck to come, which is very, very nice. So I was happy for him, and obviously I don't know if he, how much he knew about what was going to happen that night. I don't know the finer details on that, but regardless, the expression on his face when Sammy Guevara came out and gave him that contract, it was priceless. Like he had like the couldn't have the stiff upper lip, and I was like, oh man, I was like, oh, this is great. Like you start to feel a little emotional at that. So it was very nice, and I'm glad that they added it to the show because I think that everybody was wondering how this was going to go about, considering the fact that we all knew he wasn't going to become TNT champion. That wasn't going to happen. So it was like, okay, how are they going to do this? And I thought it was a good way, the way they did it.
It was a real moment in a worked sport, and that's always great when you can do that. So Kenny Omega, Christian opened the show. I'm sure I've seen hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of singles matches with Christian, and there's recency bias in what I'm going to say, but I think it was my favorite Christian singles match ever. And it's not only because of Christian. I thought Kenny was awesome. And the thing that I really love about Kenny is his ability to adjust to his opponents, his ability to say, okay, now I'm going to face this guy, and it's going to be this crazy match, John Moxley barbed wire match, and this is sort of how we have to do this. I'm going to adapt. I'm going to become this guy. And then, here's a match with Chris Jericho, which is going to be a little bit slower, more selling. And then here's this match with Christian. And I don't say this to be disrespectful in any way, but Christian wrestles a little bit more of what you'd expect in WWE. Like that's where he was for a lot of his life. A little bit slower. The near falls and stuff are a little bit more predictable, but it's a formula that works. It's a formula that the crowd understands. And I thought Kenny adapted so well to that style of a match, so much so to where I was like, man, Kenny Omega would be really good at WWE matches, which is not surprising. But I really love that match. Kenny Omega is so versatile, and Christian, It's my favorite Christian match, singles match I think I've ever seen from him.
See, here's the thing about that match too is that, obviously on Dynamite, when Don Callis essentially told the crowd that, yeah, Christian Cage is going to get his match at All Out, and everybody started chanting CM Punk and they started chanting yes, people necessarily weren't all of that sold on the idea of seeing Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega at All Out. But then I think with this match, and I think, the nice little sprint that we have, I didn't keep track of how long the actual match was. I forgot how long the match actually went, but it was, it wasn't a long match and it wasn't a short match either. It was a nice little sprint that we had there. I think that match was really to give, in my opinion, to give the people a look at, what you guys maybe you guys weren't all that crazy about this match happening, but look at what these two guys can do. And I don't know if it was just the fact that, it was the opening show. People were excited about what was going to happen, but I really do think that the audience drove that match to the next level. And I think it drove the competitors in the ring to that next level because you saw both Kenny Omega and Christian Cage really work along with the energy of the crowd. And you really felt that. And you felt like it was important what you were watching, even though this wasn't their all out match, it still felt very important. And so I think that this was a nice preview of what we can expect at All Out, which is that's a win for me. In my opinion, it's a win. Considering that, to be honest, as much as I'm a fan of Christian Cage, I did not want to see this match at All Out. This wasn't the match that I wanted to see. And I know that I'm not alone in that thought, but at least now I know that, and I already knew that we were going to get a good match, but obviously having this preview, it adds to that a little bit more.
And I think they'll probably have an even better match because there was stuff that they both kind of held back, I'm assuming, for the pay-per-view match.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
All right, so last thing about Rampage, and we'll move on. The psychology in the Britt and Red Velvet match was off because Britt is the city darling, right? This is her hometown. She's a heel, and everything she did, including the cheating, the fans cheered. Poor Red Velvet, everything she did, including her comeback, they booed. So it was a little bit of a weird match. Now, I'm not saying that they should have changed anything because Britt is over like crazy, especially in her hometown. But I did wonder. I was like, I wonder if Britt wrestled a little bit more as a babyface here, and if if Red Velvet wrestled a little bit more as a heel, like you remember, like certain matches where I think it was one of the more famous ones was Hogan and Rock at WrestleMania 18. Rock hears that he's getting booed. He heals it up a little bit, right, to build with that crowd. Hogan, obviously, baby faces himself, and they have that really great reaction. So I kind of wanted them to kind of switch on a dime a little bit, like maybe Red Velvet heals it up, Britt baby faces it up a little bit, because I thought the reaction would have just been even louder. But, what they did worked for that audience. And they did I think I saw the demographic ratings. They did the best 18 to 49 in that match for the night. So
that's incredible. And see, that's the thing is that, obviously that Red Velvet is a baby face, but given that she was there, in I was going to say in Britt Baker's hometown, that automatically turns her into a heel. But that was the thing, though, is that there were moments during this match where you kind of saw that. Like, there was a moment where Red Velvet was going to stomp on Britt Baker's injured arm, right? But because she's still a baby face, she kind of hesitated during that moment and she didn't do it. Then later on during the match, we did see Red Velvet eventually, she grabbed Britt Baker's arm and started like smashing it onto the mat. And it was kind of like this nice, turnaround. I like that because even though she was the heel because of the city that they were in this match, she still told the story that, yeah, I'm a heel today, but at the end of the day, I'm still a baby face. So I kind of like that little bit of the storytelling that we saw in this match. I was a big fan of it, and you can tell that they put a lot of thought into this match. And again, it's a 1 hour show. I do think they could have gone a lot longer, but again, it's a 1 hour show, so we got what we got. And I thought it was a pretty good match for what it was.
So we'll talk about SummerSlam here in a little bit. We'll go over a couple of the matches, but SummerSlam was the main focus of the SmackDown build, as it should be. So the two main segments, John Cena and Roman Reigns did their face off. And then in the last segment, Sasha Banks and Bianca did their contract signing. So let's start with Cena and Roman. I felt so far that John Cena's appearances have been really special. They've felt special. We missed him. He is a giant star. He is maybe the last guy that WWE has really allowed to become a giant star, maybe bigger than the WWE brand. And so him coming back was very fun, very special. But I thought this last segment with him and Roman was kind of like a step back into the John Cena that I'm not the biggest fan of when it came to his promo. He cut down Roman a lot. He had some, I would call them corny puns, like
Kitty
not the
lines.
coolest.
You
Yeah.
can say it. It was kitty lines. I mean, calling the crowd a classroom. The rating, what did he say? He gave him a D grade.
Yeah.
I was like, and then he did a pop quiz. It was kitty stuff.
Right. So that's the John Cena that I think we all kind of got tired, of when he was at the end of his run. And he kind of veered back into that guy. But I thought Roman kept it together. He was very cool, calm, collected. He got the point across of the situation. Basically John Cena is saying, and I don't know why you would call your biggest star this, but John Cena was saying, oh, you've been a failure as the top guy. Little inside references too. And so I didn't like that one-on-one, the toe-to-toe, all that much. I thought it should have been a lot better. I thought it should have been way more heated. Like, I didn't get a sense that these guys wanted to really beat each other up. I got this sense that John Cena is going to come in and he's going to kind of test this guy out. And then, he'll take the fall and then he'll leave. Like, I just didn't sense that, there was this real struggle or this real feud between the two guys. So, I mean, I don't know if it got better for you or what, or if you thought what you thought about that.
So I kind of had both emotions during this. So this was a 26-minute segment, okay? This was an entire monologue. This was a stage performance. Like, you went to the theater. This is what you got here. This is Of Mice and Men. I don't know. Something like that. But here's the thing is that I thought kind of the same thing that you did when John Cena came out, and like I said, he's pulling all of these kiddie stuff, and I'm thinking, oh God, I definitely do not. This is not for me. Like, that's not the John Cena
Right.
I like. That, and I know that he does a lot of that type of stuff, but I've liked so many of his other promos that he's done since he returned so much more. And this one just wasn't it for me. But then when Roman Reigns came out and he hit him with that Nikki Bella line about, missionary and all of that, I thought, oh man, like I was not expecting that to happen. And so I was kind of like, jaw dropping on the floor. That to me was the highlight of everything. To me, it felt like Roman Reigns was bringing something differently to the table than John Cena was. And I even tweeted out there, I was like, you know what? Roman didn't say much, but when he did, it was a lot better than I thought what John Cena had to say. But I kind of saw a lot of people did not feel that way. First and foremost, a lot of people love this segment. So I was in the minority of this. Like, I love this segment.
I felt the same
I thought
way.
it was good, but it did drag at certain points. So I didn't love it as much as other people did. But so yeah, we were definitely in the minority with this. But to me, Roman Reigns was the standout. So hashtag Team Roman. And Garrett, actually, before you continue on, we have a super chat. So I do want to read it because this one was from Big Mix Gaming. Thank you so much for sending this in. He says, HS, Denise Salcedo, Zarian, Seacrest of wrestling media, hustles more than Cena himself. Much respect and keep doing your thing. Thank you so much for sending in the super chat. Really appreciate it.
That's what I said. That's how I've introduced you, the hardest working woman in wrestling media. And I know a lot of people, for whatever reason, don't like Ryan Seacrest because of American Idol. I don't know how big of a fan of American Idol you were. I was a pretty big fan of American Idol.
Oh, you were a hardcore fan?
I watched every season. I would write about it. I do podcasts about it. Ryan Seacrest, his job looks easy, but his job's actually really hard. Like, you would know, like, more than anybody else, right? Like, just his ability to speak on stage, on mic, in front of a crowd, in front of a giant audience, and never screw up. He's so good at that.
I went to the tapings a while back of American Idol, and he went on there. He was doing a stand-up, and it was just flawless. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh,
Yeah.
but
He's
yeah,
he's true host. Like he's one of the best.
yep, he's an expert.
Okay, so Bianca and Sasha. I'll tell you what I didn't like about this segment, and then you can kind of explain it. When Sasha comes on the screen, I'm there with her the whole time. Like there's something about her presence and her charisma that is just so cool. And it's interesting too because I remember when I first started to become a fan of Trish Stratus. I was like, wow, she's really pretty. And then it was, wow, she's actually getting better. And then it was, oh, she's actually a good wrestler. Like, so we get to see like the whole journey of Trish Stratus. Sasha is so much different in that it's not that she's not attractive, because I think she's an attractive woman, but her sex appeal wasn't the way that she became a star in WWE. Her charisma, her coolness, her wrestling ability, all of those were just as important or even more important than sort of the look aspect of it. And so I find her to be one of the top wrestlers just in the game as far as presence, stage presence. She's one of my favorites. And Bianca, it isn't there for me, but she does so many things well this young into her career. And I remember watching her. There was a moment, I think it was on NXT. I want to say it was, gosh, who was it? It was when they brought some of the main roster stars back to NXT. This would have been last year sometime, early last year. And I was like, wow, Bianca's in this segment, but she's not really in this segment. She kind of got overshadowed by the true stars of whoever they were, whether it may have even been Charlotte. I can't even remember. But now, you fast forward over a year later, and she holds the stage. She holds the crowd. She's doing a really good job. I love both of these women. I hope that they're going to have this match. I know that they both didn't. They've missed a couple shows. We don't know why. I don't want to assume at all. But this is a true program that I think if they do this correctly, it will be like one of the classic women's programs in WWE history. Two African American women on the biggest stage doing their thing. I think it's awesome. It's one of my favorite. It's one of the matches I'm looking most forward to for SummerSlam. And I say all of that to say this, which is that segment did not do the feud justice like I was hoping, because Sonya Deville comes out. They're doing the contract signing. Oh, we're not going to have all this craziness. This is not what this is about. And then Sasha just brings out two women who just come in, and Sonya's like, oh, yeah, you guys can stay, even though I just said, we're not going to have this craziness. And then the craziness happens. I was like, gosh, why don't we do something different? Let's let these two women maybe not do the Cena and Roman thing, but something a little bit more similar to that, right? Because these are two giant programs, and I thought they gave Sasha and Bianca kind of the leftovers of the creative there. I was kind of frustrated with that.
I think that we can even argue that they did so even before this, heading into their WrestleMania match. I mean, everybody was looking forward to this match just because they're fans of these two women, not necessarily because of the actual story. I actually thought the way that they had Sasha Banks return and the way that she attacked Bianca Belair, I thought that was phenomenal. I loved what they did that week, and I loved what they did when they had Bianca in the ring in the middle, and she had that whole exchange with her and Sasha Banks the week after. So I was a fan of what they did the first 2 weeks with them. It was more so of this third week. At first, I wasn't really feeling it in terms of, why do you got to bring out Carmella and Zelina, who really have absolutely nothing to do with this? This is just one of those things where you want to include more people that have nothing to do with this story and aren't needed in this story just because they don't got another story for those people. That's what it felt like. But I actually thought in terms of adding more heel heat to Sasha Banks, I thought that it worked because she was kind of being like, sort of like a coward in terms of, having to need two other women to come in and essentially help her out against Bianca. And then there was a moment where Bianca was able to actually she was actually able to stand up for, defend herself against three women. And then in turn, obviously, those three women were able to get the best of her. And I did like the closing visual of the show with Sasha Banks essentially getting her in the bank statement, but with the braid in her mouth. So I thought that was a pretty good segment overall. And even though I didn't like how it started, I like how it ended. So it kind of, I thought they made sense of bringing in Carmella and Zelina in a way that I wasn't expecting them to make sense of it prior to this. And that's just the thing, though, is that this match is, I almost feel like they're doing better storytelling heading into SummerSlam for this match than they did when they were heading into their WrestleMania match, which should honestly be the opposite considering that WrestleMania is WrestleMania. So
maybe they learned from it in some way.
I don't know. But I mean, like, I am liking what they are doing with this story. And I really do hope that, we still see this match, because I know there are, rumors and speculations of people thinking we're not going to see it, but I still hope that we do.
Yeah, me too. I mean, like I said, it's one of the ones I'm looking forward to the most. Okay, so
actually, I want to add one more thing, because you were talking about Bianca Belair essentially not, completely doing it for you. I actually think that the problem with that is that when she became champion, right? Like, she had won the Royal Rumble. That was such a great moment. Girls crying in the ring. You can't help but to root for her. You can't help but to cheer for her. And then afterwards, you have, her winning the title was fantastic at WrestleMania. People were behind that. That was a great match, etc. But everything that happened after her reign is what kind of killed that for her. Her not having a crowd for, the majority of her start as champion really took away a lot of what she has the likability factor, and it took away from that, not having the crowd. And I think she's getting some of that back now, but I do think that, all of these, they kind of had her cut these really lame promos like afterwards. It kind of made her into a lame baby face. So I do think that is what took away from her, but I hope that they obviously get that back, because she's somebody that's easy to like, and you don't have very many people like that.
Yep. Bailey getting hurt also didn't help, because they were going at it. Okay, so we're 45 minutes in or so. Let's focus. Let's switch gears and let's talk about what's coming up, because there's a lot of stuff coming up too. So tonight, NXT's Go Home to Takeover. We'll talk about Takeover in a bit. Dynamite has the 5 labors of Jericho, the 5th one, Jericho and MJF. But my real question is, I think the most important thing is sort of what happens on Friday with CM Punk with the United Center. He's leaving all these little subtle social media posts. People are, is he coming? Is he coming? Like, if CM Punk is not there, that's like the craziest bait and switch that I will have ever seen in my life. So I think he'll be there. So what would you do to, I guess, to set up Friday? Like, in my thought, they've already sold out the building, or just about sold it out. So now let's jack up that TV rating on Friday, and let's do something at the end of Dynamite where either you see a picture of him, or he cuts like a 2-second promo, or there's a video or something, because I'm interested, and maybe this is just kind of because this is how my brain works. I actually want to see what his value is as a TV rating draw, right? Because we just saw Rampage did 740,000 for their first episode. And so if you promote Punk, and Punk hasn't been on pro wrestling TV for, I don't know, what is it, 7 years now, and he was on Raw in a time when they were probably doing 4 million viewers a show or 3 million viewers a show, so much bigger audience than what currently watches wrestling today. I wonder if there's people that he can bring back from those days, just because they're like, oh, this guy, we weren't sure if he was ever coming back. And so I want them to do at least a small promotion on Wednesday to lead into Friday, to let some of those people know who maybe don't watch anymore, like, hey, you probably like this guy. He's going to be on Friday, so come watch him on Friday. How would you do that, or would you not promote him at all and just let the word of mouth kind of happen?
I would definitely not promote him at all. I think I feel like that's the direction they're going to stick with, because I think there's something about, even though we all are like 99.99% sure that he's going to show up on Rampage this Friday, I think that there's interest in that mysteriousness. There's interest in the, like the elite doing all of those subtle hints, Kenny Omega wearing that Cookie Monster shirt, little things like that. People like, those cryptic posts,
Yeah.
those little comments that are made here and there, people trying to keep the secret that we all know is going to happen. I think there's interest and there's intrigue in that, more so than if you were just to flat out say, hey, CM Punk's going to be here on Friday, tune in. And I think that those people that, left, and maybe they're not, they would come back for CM Punk, I think if anything, they've heard about it already. It's been all over the wrestling media news. I almost feel like, how could you not hear about it at this point? And I am going to be interested in that number. I'm going to be interested in that number 100%, because it is going to be very, very telling. I do think that my prediction is that I do think they're going to surpass the 1 million viewership mark for Rampage. If they don't, in my opinion, it's not going to look good if they do not hit that 1 million mark. Because I even think, like, even people that are not AEW fans, or maybe no longer CM Punk fans, because now, you have, my prediction here is that I do think that people that do not watch AEW are still going to tune in out of curiosity of what the hell they're going to do with CM Punk. Because at the end of the day, this is a big news story, and people are going to be interested, even if they're not a fan of the product, or even if they're rooting for the product to fail. Like, if I wasn't an AEW fan, I would still show up and watch the show just to see what the hell they're going to do. So yeah, I do think it's going to be very telling.
Okay, would you put him on the beginning or at the end? And here's why. You remember when they did the match with Shaq? That opened the show, I believe. And so they had this high peak, and then the rating went down because people who tuned in to see Shaq, then they didn't stay for the rest of the show. I wonder if you put him in the main event segment rather than in the beginning, to see if you can keep some of those people. Maybe they're changing back and forth, like, oh, did I miss him yet? But I wonder if they, because of what happened with Shaq, if they put him in the back of the show, so that, see if they can get people to stick around a little while longer.
I'm not confident in my answer, because I feel like the smart thing to do would be to hold it off until the end, so you have people there watching the entire show. They're not leaving because they want to see what if. And again, 99.9% sure he is. People want to know, right? Like, is he going to come in? Is he not going to come in? You want to wait. You want to, hold it off until the end and all of that. But part of me thinks, why not just kick off the show like that? I think a lot more people are expecting them to close out the show at CM Punk versus opening up the show at CM Punk. So that within itself could automatically be like this big giant surprise. And then who knows, they can, weave them into the rest of the show. I think that if he were to sort of kick off the show, it would be a massive reaction. I mean, it's going to be a massive reaction regardless, but I do think that it would throw people off. But I do think they're going to hold them up until the end. So it really just depends on what they want to do.
You could do both, like what they used to do with Steve Austin in his like hot days at WWE. Is there would be something in the beginning of the show that happens, and he's there, and then throughout the show he would come back, and then he'd be in the main event segment too. So you could do something like where he opens up the show, does a promo, gets interrupted, and that leads to something in a main event segment where maybe he announces his match for All Out, or maybe he and Darby Allin go off the show brawling or something like that. You could kind of, do both and let the viewers know, by just being a smart opening segment, that he's going to be back. And so maybe you want to stay with the show. I think that'd be interesting.
I like that too. I would prefer that so much more. Hey, let's, have him come out, make his debut. All of a sudden, maybe he already has a match, main event. Bam, there you go. Keeps people interested. I think that would be smart. But then again, because it is I feel like that, obviously that's what the people are there for. They're there to see CM Punk. I know that it's a 1 hour show and you're going to want to weave in other stuff, but at the end of the day, the people are there for CM Punk, I think. At least the majority.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about two other shows this weekend. WWE shows, both SummerSlam and TakeOver. If I was to ask you between 1 and 10, what your interest is in SummerSlam, what's the heat factor here? Obviously, 10 being the highest. How excited are you for SummerSlam?
So I think my answer is going to be completely unfair, Garrett, because I was just talking about this on the Raw post show where like the go home show for SummerSlam for Raw was nothing to, be over the moon about, right?
Unless you're a fan of Goldberg's son, then maybe you were just like, yes.
So like, here's the thing though, is because, okay, so if I were watching from home, if I wasn't going, I would say my excitement level would probably be at a 6.
Mm-hmm.
But because I am going and I'm going to be there and I'm looking forward to the entire weekend as a whole, my excitement is different. So I'm at a 10. But that's because I'm going to be there. So it's like two different numbers.
That always changes things being there.
Right, exactly.
Are you going to be doing stuff from Vegas?
Yes.
Other than SummerSlam, do you know what it is yet? Do you want to say it or do you not want to promote it?
Well, for sure I will be at the SummerSlam after party. I announced that today on Twitter. That's going to be exciting.
Oh.
They're going to do like a red carpet event. And I forgot who they're going to have on there, but they have a couple of names already announced for that.
Who was it? Gosh.
I forgot who they have on there, but
I thought it was like Cardi B or something.
Oh, no, that's Tiffany Haddish or Haddish. I don't know if it's Haddish or Haddish.
Haddish. I think it's Haddish.
Haddish. Okay, yeah. So she's going to be like the host of the SummerSlam after party. And she's like really funny. Oh, I'm a fan of hers. I love her. She's hilarious.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, so I'll be there for that. I'll be there for SummerSlam. I'll be arriving Thursday. I think I'm gonna be at the tryouts, not like trying out or anything like that, like covering the tryouts. So I'll probably be there for that, and then we'll see what else. And then obviously I'll be doing my post show, my SmackDown Rampage post show from my Las Vegas hotel room. So hopefully that goes all right.
All right. Any guests that you may?
Probably not. Probably not. Yeah.
You just like it, you and the audience.
Well, it would just be too much. It would be too much. Like I got SmackDown to talk about. It's gonna be a big night on Rampage, and then I'm in my hotel room in Las Vegas. So it's not like I'm in like a cool venue. I'm literally gonna be streaming out of my hotel room.
Are you gonna be doing anything non-wrestling related fun in Vegas?
I don't think so.
No, it's just going to be all wrestling?
Yeah, my schedule seems pretty packed right now. Unless like something just doesn't, I don't know. I might hang out, go to the pool. Oh, I'm definitely going to go to the casino. I do want to gamble a little bit. I made a promise to Luke, who was just on our show last week, that I would find one of the Ghostbusters machines and I would do a little gambling there. So I'd probably gamble just for laughs here and there. So I'll do that.
Are you gonna see Andrew? Because he's gonna be out there, right?
Yeah, but I need to check to see. He's doing a show, a Matman show from the Sapphire, and with RVD and all of that. But I don't know what time that is, so I would have to check to see if I could go.
All right, so let's talk about some of these matches. Obviously on Raw, if you watched Raw, there was RK Bro got back together. They have this wacky way of putting them back together. All it took was for Randy to beat him up, and then Riddle wanted to prove to him. Someone beats me up, I'm not proving to you that I'm worthy of your respect.
Matt Riddle's into bad boys. He feels he can change them. What can we say?
That's a really good analogy.
No, I did like a whole thing like on Twitter. I like shared that. Like this is literally like obviously it's a bromance. It's a bro love story. Yep. And it really is there. I mean, at the end of it all, Randy Orton's this guy with trust issues. He's pushing Matt Riddle away. He even disappeared, was MIA. And when he comes back, he's still pushing Matt Riddle away. Why? Because maybe they were getting just a little too serious and it was too much for Randy Orton. And now you still have Matt Riddle fighting for him. And so, now he's won his heart back. That's the way I see this whole entire story. It's a rom-com, but for bros.
It also sounds like they both are going to have emotional problems very soon.
Roman
So I actually love the act. I don't love this story of them getting back together, but I love the act. So I'm actually looking forward to the match with AJ Styles and Omos. And I'm assuming that AJ is going to be in the ring most of the time. So I think it'll be a really good match. I also really am interested to see the Reigns and Cena. Now, I know what that match is going to be. We've seen it once before, and I can kind of visualize what it's going to be in my head, but I think it'll be good. Two giant stars. And I also already mentioned Sasha and Bianca. There's Edge and Seth Rollins. I'm a big fan of Damian Priest. I like Sheamus's work. I think that's going to be a good match. But they also have some matches that I'm not that interested in. Eva Marie, even though I love Eva Marie because she's from the Bay Area. She threw out the first pitch at the San Francisco Giants game. She's a big San Francisco Giants fan, as am I. I do a podcast called Thompson to Clark about the San Francisco Giants. Check that out if you guys want to listen to some San Francisco Giants talk. And then, the Usos and Rey Mysterio and Dominic, it feels like that'll be probably a good match because everyone's a pretty good wrestler on this show. But, some things are not as important to this card as others. Bobby Lashley and Goldberg, I think it'll probably be quick. I just hope that they give Goldberg enough to where you kind of think he's going to win, even when Lashley comes back and wins. If that's not there, I think that match actually has a good chance of being pretty bad. But what are the top two matches for you on this show? Or if there's more, there can definitely be more. But what's really you're like, oh, I can't wait to see that.
Reigns, John Cena. That is the match for me that I'm very much looking forward to. Everything else for me, it's like, oh, well, except Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair. I do think that that's going to be good. Everything else is there. But I would definitely say John Cena, Roman Reigns.
We talked about Nikki Ash when she had cashed in the Money in the Bank, and then she had that great moment to end Raw. It was a great moment. I haven't felt too great about where her character currently is. And the three-way with her and Charlotte and Rhea, I'm sure will be good. I'm sure will be, really good. All three of women are really good in the ring. But I feel like, and this I don't like to say this because I actually like Nikki a lot, but it feels like we've already jumped the shark with that character, and it's only been here for since Money in the Bank. I don't know. I kind of feel bad about saying that, but it just seems like that character is already the fans don't even really get it. They're not that into her. I thought they would be way more into her than they are. So I don't know. Charlotte is giant star. Rhea is the up and coming, next. And Nikki just kind of sort of fits somewhere in the middle. And I'm not sure exactly what to think about her standing there.
I actually kind of feel a little differently. And the reason for that is I feel like Rhea Ripley lost a lot as champion, which is the polar opposite of what you would expect.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's
her
hard to
reign,
be champion sometimes.
Exactly. Her reign, I think kind of just, and this is, obviously not entirely just her fault. I just think that her reign wasn't, it showed a lot of her flaws and they didn't highlight her strengths as a champion. And so for me, I almost feel like she's she's in the shadows, in my opinion, to Charlotte and Nikki here in this match. And Nikki, the only reason why she's not in the shadows is necessarily because at least she has this new character. So there's at least that portion of it. But I also feel bad for Nikki too, because come on, she's been doing rematches, and the last 2 weeks have been her and Rhea. After that, we had, prior to that, we had her and Charlotte. So it's there really isn't they're not giving you a reason to get excited about any of these three women. And they could have done a lot more with Nikki heading into this, especially with a character like that. You can have fun with something like that. And I don't think they did. Yeah. And they could have given more credibility to Rhea Ripley as a former Raw Women's Champion. And they didn't do that either. And then Charlotte, she's going to find a way to get herself over, to get the people interested in her some way. And I do think she is doing that, because to me, she's the most interesting person in this matchup. But this match, the only reason why I'm particularly excited is because I'm wondering, are we going to see Becky Lynch return during this? I don't know. And that's really the only thing where I'm like, okay, I'm expecting a surprise out of this match.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I didn't even think about Becky because they've sort of been. It seems like they've been teasing Becky now for months and months and months, and when they finally do, you pull the trigger, it's going to be pretty big. Okay, so after this show, which is a little bit of a, I guess it's a flip flop. Takeover is the following day. Now, how are you going to watch Takeover? Are you going to be able to watch this live, or are
Yes.
you okay?
Well, so Las Vegas is like a 3.5 hour, 4 hour drive from where I live.
Right.
So I'm going to leave early and I'm actually going to be back in time to do a SummerSlam post show. And then I will be watching NXT and then I will be doing my NXT post show. So I will definitely be back with plenty. Like I'll be back by like 11, 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time here in Los Angeles. So it'll be, I'm going to wake up early, obviously, and drive back. So I will be back.
We need to put the Ryan Seacrest quote again on the screen.
Yeah, exactly. So I will be back. Like I'll wake up early and make sure that I'm back here in time. And also, I don't want to be in that Las Vegas traffic, in that Las Vegas heat. You want to leave when it's not going to be too hot so your car doesn't get overheated. I mean, there's a lot that goes into all of that. But anyways, so yes, I will be back.
Okay, so NXT, by no fault of their own, seemingly. Well, I guess it is fault of their own, depending on who you want to blame. They seem a little flat right now. They seem a little less than valuable to the overall wrestling picture because they're the leader of the WWE. Maybe doesn't like them as much as we like NXT. I'm a pretty big NXT fan, and the changes that happened made me wonder, like, man, should I invest as much time in this product? And are they basically telling me, this product is not going to be what you like? Hopefully it is. But I guess my question is, since all the stuff had happened at NXT, since Karrion Kross started showing up on Raw and losing 2 matches on Raw, has your interest in TakeOver dwindled, or are you excited for this show as well?
I would say that I'm looking forward to the Samoa Joe Karrion Kross match because I'm a fan of Samoa Joe.
Mm-hmm.
However, when your NXT champion is presented in that way, in that light, it takes a lot away from the story that they were building. And there's no ands, ifs, or buts. I'm less interested in that match now because of the way that the NXT champion was presented. And so for me, the only reason why I'm still looking forward to it, again, is because I'm a Samoa Joe fan and I know that he's gonna do everything in his power to get Karrion Kross and him to have a pretty awesome match. And with that being said, I'm still looking forward to that match out of that respect. I'm just going to try to ignore everything else that I've seen happen in regards to affecting that storyline. And I'm really excited. I'm also looking forward to, I want to know what's going to go down with Raquel and Dakota Kai. I'm looking forward to that aspect of things. But other than that, I feel like I'm probably missing something right now, but that's what I'm interested in.
Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly doing their 2 out of 3
there
falls,
you go.
3
That one's
going to
be interesting too, because again, Adam Cole, we don't know what's going to happen. Either we're not going to see him on NXT because he's leaving to the main roster, or he's going to leave the company. Either or, I'm not expecting him to win this match. And I am also looking forward to this match. I almost forgot about it. Dang.
Well, but that's part of it, right? Like, it's almost like they're telling us, those of you who pay attention to this, maybe you shouldn't pay attention so closely because, of the things that have been happening. So I know a lot of people who listen to this are also going to be in Vegas. So I want to tell everyone to have a great time. I hope you have a great time as well. I know you're going to be super busy. Want to send a shout out to Andrew. Hope everything is okay with him. And also,
I'm gonna hide from Andrew in Las Vegas because he said he's planning on ribbing me, and I'm not looking forward to that.
He did say that. He actually did say
I'm gonna hide from him the entire weekend.
I don't know if people still do this, but historically, SummerSlam weekend for this website, for F4W, for the community, we would also do something called Super China Buffet Day. Do you know what this is?
I think I've heard of it. Yeah, I've heard of it. I never took part in it.
So I may have the history of this wrong, but I think Brian had some people over to watch SummerSlam, and then before they went to like a buffet, and then he wrote about it, and he probably did a podcast about it, and so it became like an official holiday of of this website. But last year, because of the, we were all in our homes, no one could go. And so I haven't heard anything about Super China Buffet Day this year, but if people are doing it, have a great Super China Buffet Day. And yeah, so I guess that's it from here. Good luck, drive safe, all that stuff, have fun. For Denise, I'm Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace.
Oh, I was like, I forgot I'm ending the stream. All right, here we go. Bye, everybody.
Bye.